Welcome to a special episode of The Diplomats, After Dark with Conq. I've got Badger and Special Pete here, and we're here to talk to Conq, currently rated the greatest player in Nexus history, about another failure in a Nexus finals. We're brought to you by diplomacybriefing.com, where you can get all your internet content about diplomacy, learn what's going on in the hobby, totally free in your mailbox, diplomacybriefing.com. Thanks to Humble. Sorry you couldn't be here today. All right. You've got us mad because it's really late at night, and you basically forced us to do this. And unlike Village Idiot, wouldn't give in to you and retreated to Bulgaria. We decided to retreat to Sevastopol just to suit your needs and do this late at night.
Ed, I'm sorry to hear that, and I'm sure this is going to be a grumpy, miserable interview because I am equally angry at the late hour, and I'm also generally grumpy that you only asked to interview me after my failures. This is going to be a boring, sad, awful interview, so let's get started.
Okay. First, we'll talk a little bit about diplomacy.
All right.
You know, I love your play, but I think it's time for you to brag. You were or are the number one player on PlayDip?
Is that a question?
Yeah. Well,
absolutely number one for years now. Do your research.
For years. I don't even really know what PlayDip is. It's some minor website. You're the number one player on Nexus. What aren't you number one at?
I'm the number one player getting absolutely blitzed and destroyed at Nexus Finals as well. So I think I've got a pretty consistent track record of being number one.
I'm pretty up there too.
I'm 3 for 3. So bring it. I'll go to war with anybody on that.
Do you only play well in games in which I am your neighbor?
It never hurts.
I can agree with that. Okay. Are you officially in your head and for objectively better than Audacious Hand and Superstition at the game of diplomacy?
I have never played Audacious Hand. I've enjoyed listening to the ridiculous various illusions and imagery over the past couple of weeks. I imagine we get along well on a board because he says nice things about me, and I like that. Superstition, I think we played once and we were kind of far away, and we were like connected, and if only we were next to each other, then I could have stabbed him and won. But I wasn't, and so I don't know if I'm better. I feel like I get along with them, which is a recipe for disaster, as you know well, Ed.
Okay, Ed, I'm not letting your steamroller get going this time, though.
Ask anything you want.
Because already you said you said we were all grumpy. I actually approve. First of all, I approve of Conq holding out for this late hour. You know, we're both on the West Coast. We're both always forced to abide by this East Coast elitism, this Eurocentrism, this kind of Protestant morality of the morning and sleep. So for once, there's someone willing to fight to be at my hour. So thank you. Second of all, I mean, how can you call his performance a failure? I mean, he not only lost all his home centers over the course of this game, but he had none of his home centers. He had one fleet left in Greece, and he ended with 6. There's more to winning this game. There's style. There's the there's the will of the people. Sometimes the person you remember is not the person who wins. So I think that there's a small victory here.
Very small.
Yeah. Microscopic, some might say. A lot of moral victories for Conq.
Yeah, I mean, look, I finished on 6, but that's ridiculous because once you go down to 1 in a game where you're playing for board top, nobody really cares what you're doing. So,
We did,
nice that I picked up a center here or there, but let's not get out of control. It was a pretty terrible, sad game. True to form, sadly for me in the finals. And I wish you'd for once come and talk to me after a win. But here we are.
All right, here we are. You have not heard the fall 1910 analysis, which will be up. You probably wouldn't listen to it anyways, but we analyzed your game and said your biggest mistake was taking Turkey. This is where you lost the game right here. You knew Village Idiot at the time was Village Idiot and picked Russia. I assume you didn't want Italy since, well, you don't need to rehash why, but you could have picked Austria.
Yeah, you're right. I hated Turkey about halfway into the first turn before he'd made any moves. I could see nobody wanted to work with me. I had grand illusions coming in. I really thought Village Idiot and I would work together. I went in with that as kind of a plan. I told him that pretty clearly. And what I was getting back, it was really obvious that I was on a figurative island. So, yeah, I agree. About halfway through the spring turn of 1901, I deeply regretted choosing Turkey, and I felt like I didn't have any good choices, and it was rough. So a better diplomat could have worked his way out of there and found a friend, but nobody was buying what I was selling at all.
Conq, I don't think anyone really likes humble Conq. You know, we need Conq.
How can I brag about the early game? And I mean, if there was a way to build myself up about it, I would. I was sending a lot of feelers out there, and I was just getting nothing. So I don't know what to tell you.
Well, I want Hand and Stitches to talk about this, but when I interviewed Village Idiot, he said today he was never going to work with you. He tried to make that clear from the beginning. He viewed you as a threat. He didn't want you to work your magic on anybody, and that he did not envision an RT as being in R's interest. He goes, that was just a way for T to get big and R to fight Germany and England and Austria, and he didn't want to do that. Did he express that to you right away, or just like, no, I don't really see a way? Or
okay, so he definitely didn't express that to me, but who would? In his defense, he was absolutely ice cold with me. I mean, it's not like he made me promises. He would forward what I was saying about Austria to Austria, which came right back to me right away. So he made it abundantly clear without saying so that he had no interest. So I think that's foolish. I think, you want to be the person who's choosing between allies. You want to keep your options open so that you have leverage to get a better deal. So if you cut somebody off, and what he did is he gave Austria the choice basically every turn for the rest of the game, because he continued that ice cold approach. So that sucked. And yeah, I mean, it was communicated to me, but through his just sort of ice cold reception to pretty much anything I proposed. So yeah, I could see that pretty clearly. And I think I think it was a mistake.
You've seen the criticism. I want you to address it head on, that every deal you propose is always in your interest, but that you don't compromise off that position. Just rather try and convince people that that position is the right one, and it becomes frustrating. Do you agree or disagree with that?
I disagree. I am an alliance player for sure, and I don't think I'm stubborn in that, and I certainly wasn't in this game. I mean, I was the guy who was trying to ally with Austria for years without ever asking for Bulgaria, trying to be just all fleets from my little island and whatever I could pick up. So I think I think when I find someone I want to work with, that I'll try to be pretty flexible to find something that works. So I disagree with that, but I don't think I had much of a chance to show flexibility in this game, sadly, because I couldn't get to that first stage with anybody except for Austria, and we can delve into that relationship too.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thanks for
Well,
helping me do my job. But hold on, Hand. You had a question. You got to jump in.
well, I mean, like we're also one thing I was looking over the moves a little bit, and one thing I mean, you did like if we were gonna mount some defense like from the moves on the board for Austria for Russia's animosity towards you, you did move to Armenia pretty early. Um, you also
Yeah.
did support him into Romania, and so just, I mean, I was kind of wondering. I mean, I'm guessing the move to Armenia was you trying to get Austria on board. And then finally, like, what did you make of Italy's move to Trieste? Were you fooled by that? Did you think that I mean, did you just assume it was kind of a deep cooperation between Austria and Italy? And if that was the case, then why would you work with Austria?
Yeah. So the Russia part first, I did move to Armenia. I didn't do it in 01. In 01, so in 01, I think I had a pretty pro-Russia move, as pro-Russia as you can be.
Yeah.
Notice I'm moving to Armenia when he's taking Bulgaria, which I deeply suspected was happening. So at that point, he was just my enemy. And I needed to put a little leverage to get something, but this is just a defensive move, right? I'm just trying to survive until something happens. What I'm really doing in the early game, so clearly I have AIR alliance coming to get me. Most of my effort at that point is trying to form a Western triple. So I had a lot of talks with, France was totally keen. Doc was up for it, obviously, because it suited him. But I had a lot of talks with England and Germany whenever I could kind of get them on the phone, so to speak, to talk about a Western triple, basically making the hard sell that if I die, it's bad for them and the winner's going to come from the East. But that was kind of my most active diplomacy there. It didn't work, obviously. But my move to Armenia is just defensive to try to put up something and to show Russia, he can support Austria into centers, but he's not going to get a thing from this. But it didn't seem like he was attacking me to get centers. It was some other reason. So that was that relationship. As far as Austria goes and Trieste, I didn't know that was happening, but right afterwards, pretty much everybody said that was arranged. And I guess similar to my Russia experience, my Italy experience in spring 01 was basically, he told me he was on vacation. He's at the beach. Didn't have time to talk, but that no matter what, he's not going to attack Austria.
That was also the year, Ed, you're flipping between things pretty fast, but that was also the year of
01. I'm trying to,
yeah, it was also the year of your celebrated, and this is my favorite kind of move, the absolute just kind of walking on the razor's edge. You disband in Bulgaria instead of retreating.
Hold on, you're way ahead.
No, it's the same. Just go, if you went back to the new move we were just discussing, right here. So he disbands here instead of retreating, which actually, in my mind, this was what allowed you to get Austria on board for the convoy into Naples. Can you just describe I mean, how what you were thinking here, but also what you're feeling, like, the kind of rush of adrenaline, or, is there a part of you that likes to do these things just for that kind of a little bit of a rush?
I mean, that's probably fair psychologically. I'm interested in a little drama and a little flair. Absolutely. I think that can be helpful. It could definitely hurt as well. So, but this move, I basically had agreements with 3 people to do this. So, I was making a pitch to Italy that I'm going to give him my centers, basically, because I want to block him in Smyrna instead of having him go to Syria. And he told me that he'll believe it if I disband Bulgaria. So that was point 1. Point 2 is I'm talking to Germany and England, and I'm trying to tell him, look, I'm dying here. I'm on a ship and I'm sinking and I'm staring off in the horizon and I need your help. And if you don't form a Western triple, then the winner's going to come out east because I'm going to give up my centers. And so I told him I'd disband in order to kind of sell that. And then third, I wanted an argument to Austria that if he would have supported that army to Romania, then I'll build a fleet, which I, can only do if I'm disbanding that army. And so that would give him a reason to leave Bulgaria for me to create a unit that isn't very hostile to him. So it's really kind of, it sort of worked with all my diplomatic angles at the time. And that's why I did that.
Hey, go back for a second here and psychoanalyze and tell us your impressions candidly as you want of the other players. We got Village Idiot already a little bit. Wasn't going to work with you, but
One question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I didn't get to interview Village Idiot Ewok, but I remember in season 2 he said that he spent too much time trying to keep the good players down. Do you think he made the same mistake this time?
Yes. So he told me it was for a different reason. I still think it was a mistake, frankly, but he told me that in his opinion, a Conq VI juggernaut would just get too much attention. So that's why he didn't do it. So, I mean, I just think he just completely cut off that potential avenue. And what that does is it forces me to offer deals to everybody else because I don't even have a choice up north. So I think when you cut off that avenue, you really you're just helping the other neighbor.
You think that's why I didn't help France too, because he's a world champion?
I don't know about that. I think there was a lot going on at the time. I really have no insight into that.
Continue with the rest of them.
Talk about the other players.
I do love how you're threatening to throw the game in 1902. That's pretty.
But look, I mean,
it's pretty early to be threatening to throw the game, man.
Early for you, but I have been knocked out these finals board. I mean, 1904. I have never seen 1904. So the end for me is 1903. It's not too early for me, especially facing a 3-on-1, right?
Yeah.
I feel that in my soul.
Austria. Tell us about your Austrian, what you thought of Austria negotiating style. You went back and forth with the guy. We'll get into that a little later when it got bad originally, but tell me initially.
Yeah, great player, great approach. He's talking to everybody. He's making a bond with everybody, kind of inside and outside of the game. He was putting in a ton of effort, which is kind of the baseline to be a really good player. So he and I thought hit it off pretty well. We had a little bit of a hiccup in a messaging forwarding snafu when. See, I thought VI and I were like the inner circle. So I was basically telling him things like, okay, Austria has this grudge against you from the earlier game. Just look out for that, right? And so he, of course, sends that to Austria, and then ultimately it comes back to me. So I see right away, okay, that's the kind of game we're playing, and that, anything I say to VI about Austria is going to come back to Austria. So that created a little distrust for Austria and I for a bit. But then we kind of came clean about that, how to talk about it, and then really we're on the same page again, such that we were able to kind of put together a couple of moves together when he moved into Ionian, and then we convoyed his fleet over. At that point, I felt pretty good about the game. I'm like posting a bunch of poems and putting together gifts, and that means I'm excited and having fun, right? So that I was feeling pretty good, and I thought he and I were locked pretty tight. And the move after this one.
Well, hang on. Tell us about Italy. Both Doc and VI have some harsh words for Italy about deception. You share those?
Yeah.
Well, player.
To me, it's not so much about deception. He's just completely unreliable. So it may be a strength, honestly, on a finals board. As I'm kind of trying to self-assess and figure out where it's all gone wrong, I'm thinking about the kind of player I am and the kind of players that have been crushing me on finals boards. And I'm more of I like to find an ally, and then I'm really open and transparent. Maybe too much so. I want to work out every move. I want them to know what I'm doing, and I want to know what they're doing. I want to talk about who we're talking to, what we're saying. I try to be pretty open book. And there's another style where everything's kind of under this cloud, and you work things out with an ally, but you never really show your moves, and you're not really expecting to know theirs. And then so Tom is more that kind of player, at least with me. Maybe we were just never close enough to share much, but he was just totally unreliable from my perspective. By the end, I didn't put any stake at all into what any promise he might make, because he so consistently did something else. It's a Turkey-Italy relationship, so I think part of that is just the geography of it. But I had the attitude pretty, from about the mid game on, that I just couldn't rely on Tom.
And EG?
And EG, less exposure to their tactics, obviously, but we all got along really well. I respect them both as players. I don't have any, neither one deceived me in any way, but there wasn't really any cause to do that. So
the biggest critique of you last year in every interview was you're overly communicated. Conq press. Too much, especially the Europeans. Did you think about that this year?
What was different this year, it was all on Discord, except for with Doc. But that made it more conversational and more even, right? So I'm not writing a book without having somebody interspersing responses. So I think that probably helped a little. I thought about it early on. I did. I didn't want to be, annoying. But I think it probably helped that it was conversational chat as opposed to writing a long post to somebody on Backstabber.
I want to ask a question and also add something to that. Is in those critiques, what I see there is actually a weaponization, right, of someone's personality traits. And I kind of saw this too in some of the ways people actually talked about Tom and like this mockery of his quote unquote tomfoolery. Like often, what you'll do to kind of demonize someone else and to kind of discredit the way they talk about things is you latch on to a trait of theirs that is even a strength, and you kind of turn it around into something that other people on the board can mock. And I really did see people doing that to you. Because I even in your delightful like public chat posts, you would post these just compelling poems that people would really want to rally around, and then people like VI and Umble, who just seems to, I don't know, hate you or something. I don't know what his motives are. They would almost interrupt it with these crass gifs, right? They would just kind of almost break up your flow, and then even mock your artistry in a way that would like turn it around against you. So I think there's an element of that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I said spray painting a Mona Lisa, but I missed your question. What was the question? I was enjoying.
Exactly. Well, that was more the comment. Like I think that it's important to discern what's a critique and what's a continuation of a kind of weapon, like a turning someone's strengths around against them. My question was though, when you were talking about forwarding press, and you kind of mentioned this in Discord. I mean, what did forwarding press look like in this game? I mean, was it like screenshots? Was it just kind of copy and pasting?
So there was very little screenshots, copy pasting, anything like that. There was, in any game, there's just, hey, he said this, he said this, paraphrasing, I think more. I think there was a little bit of copy pasting, but it wasn't pervasive. So, and whatever I was talking about, I guess it was the kind of circle with VI and EVR. That was just, hey, Turkey said this, that kind of thing, which is essentially the same thing, I think. I mean, in order to like work out an alliance, you gotta have a trust tree where whatever you're going to say is going to stay there. And if you don't have it, it's really hard to operate.
This has got to be where you're feeling really good.
Yeah, thank you.
I mean, you got the Lady Razor cartoon, the disband of the Eastern Fleet.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, Lady Razor.
Then in spring of 03 to Naples. You put your faux penis up on Discord. You were feeling your oats. Did you think that was too arrogant do you think that's why Austria eventually turns around on you?
He and I haven't sort of done a deep dive into that one. I guess maybe a little in game, but not a lot. We had a period of silence after this one. This is the convoy that we're working together. Then the next one, he walked out of Naples and didn't give me grease. So yeah, that was a really frustrating move. I'd say it's my biggest regret in the game. So right before this turn, I felt supremely confident that Austria was with me.
Why wouldn't you?
Well,
there's no reason to feel the other way.
Yeah, well, I felt like he had reasons why he had to stick with me here. I really convoyed his army to Italy, feeling like that would make it impossible for them to work together. I want them tied up in that way. And I felt like I was offering something, this sort of like entirely fleet power. I'm not even asking for Bulgaria back, where he's going to be able to use me and stay safe for me. And so I felt really good about it. And I really didn't make the hard sell, trying to like learn from my mistakes in the past where maybe I'm a little where I overdo it. So I kind of like went to bed at peace, and I woke up and I wasn't scrambling at all. And I just felt like he was going to let me into Greece. He was going to continue his attack on Italy, and the two of us were going to be off.
Did you think he might attack Romania?
Not. I don't think so, because that wasn't agreed. He was really stubborn about attacking Russia. He wanted more of a RAT than a AT at this time, which I didn't agree with. But I'm happy to work with anybody who wants to work with me, especially at that time. So anyway, I didn't make the hard sell, and it didn't work out. And so that's, I guess, one of my bigger regrets.
Well, I will say that at the time, I kind of interpreted, so you did move to Constantinople, and I interpreted, at the time, the way, I don't know if you were actually listening to what we were saying, but I had this kind of image of Austria as he had, kind of disciplining his dogs, and that you were a bad dog by moving from Smyrna to Constantinople. Was that a bit of a transgression, or was that also not in the deal about where you would move that army?
Sorry, I'm negotiating with Mrs. Conq to be able to keep talking to you fellas. Okay, so I'm sorry, I totally missed it.
No problem. So I thought at the time, I thought that perhaps what might have set Austria off is your move to Constantinople.
So possibly.
Like,
sorry, one sec. Okay. Yeah, I will. I got it. Sorry.
There's Austria. She's like, honey, you weren't supposed to move to Constantinople.
So look, on that move, I think maybe like 10 minutes before the move, Austria kind of asked me about that and asked me if I was, if I would not move to Constantinople. And I said I was going to do it. Mostly I said I was going to do it because I didn't want him to think it's going to be open for a potential stab. But I moved there anyway. I don't think that was asking too much. I think kind of as you're working at an alliance, you have to strike a balance between being deferential and keeping everybody safe, but also you don't want to make yourself so much of an appetizing target that they have to move on you. So I don't really regret that move. I think being too passive there just makes yourself so appetizing that they have to attack you. So that's how I feel about that one. But I didn't make the hard sell to Austria, and I probably should have. Obviously, he wasn't on the same page with me.
So you end up breaking the fourth wall on
Repeatedly.
Discord.
Yeah.
You got the long series of press that I go over frequently on this show, where you write, I look forward to hearing the reasons why Austria's one-dot stab of me was a stroke of brilliance befitting a finals board instead of the greedy, short-sighted buffoonery that it looks like to me. I'm assuming when you wrote that, you were pretty damn sure that there was no going back between you and Austria. It seems like a radical step to take. Why did you take it public?
Sure. Well, at that point, I'm really not very optimistic about my future in the game. Austria was the only one at that, really, I'll say at that stage, but through to the end of the game, who was interested in cooperating at all. So his stab, which was a real committed stab with a move, I think, to Eastern Med, or it was a real, he had a fleet that really committed. So I'm not really writing that as a strategic move to kind of set up the rest of the game. Probably it's not the smartest move, but I mean, really, I have noticed on your show, you all have kind of evaluated the strategic power of most any post on Discord. Most of it I'm just having fun, or I'm just trying to express myself, right? So here, I don't know. I was stabbed. I was hurting. I felt like he made a mistake, and I wanted to express that. So it wasn't a strategy move. It was just I don't have a psychiatrist. I use Discord. I just
Conq, but there is.
How funny was Lady Razor's cartoon though? 10,000 words and when I'm throwing my toys out of the pram.
Wait, but can we go back? Let's go back to what he wrote. I actually want to hear what Stitches has to say about this a little bit. Stitches is actually, to my mind, he taught me a lot, right, about throwing public tantrums. And not and the master of that. And it's not that it's not authentic, but there's a kind of like there's manipulation, then there's instinctual manipulation of your emotions. There's sort of pathos here. And Stitch, I was just wondering, like, Stitches, how would you like edit this? Like, how would you help him make this do what he wants to do?
That's tough. I'd have to go through it pretty well. It is a nice piece, just because it is cathartic, it is genuine. It does have that subconscious influence to the reader. But yeah, I'd really have to do a lot to pull the work to actually
send me a red line if you don't mind.
I'll give it if it means anything. I asked Village Idiot. I was trying to fish for one compliment from Village Idiot because I'm so abused. I said, VI, you have to agree, as good a writer as Conq is, at least I'm a better writer. And he goes, no, I don't agree.
Yeah, definitely not, Ed.
Better writer.
Sorry, dude.
Then I said, okay, can you agree that while Conq is more persuasive a writer than I am, that I'm at least funnier? Again, he refused to answer that question.
Yeah. I think you appeal to a certain audience, Ed.
You have to get me. All right.
I feel like you're fishing for a compliment for me, and I'm gonna bite, Ed. I think you're a damn funny writer. All right.
I'm funny.
There you go.
I'm like everybody says, I'm smart.
I feel like this Fairly post didn't get near enough attention. I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was well researched. I thought it was poignant, but here we are.
Well, you tried. Tried with
Yeah,
Poland.
I didn't really get the thing.
Fairly set. Oh, this cat that gets sent to space by the French National Space Program and is euthanized a month after landing successfully as a hero. Oh, what a story. Anyway, I'm completely digressing. What's the question?
You're basically on life support for the rest of the game until 09.
Yeah.
There we go.
Here we go. Objectively analyze this. Superstition, hand, umble. If you were in the AIR, did Austria move too soon? Should they have taken you down one more center before they, before Austria moves on Italy?
Where are we? We're follow 4.
Well, at any point, right? I mean, you got Austria on board in 03.
Yeah.
But you were on 3 at the time.
Yeah. So I don't know. So you got to back up a move, and I'll see the board.
Killing me.
Sorry.
You have this memorized.
I basically remember it. My answer is no, because I think I think Turkey becomes a lot less predictable on 2, right? It's not clear what my motivation will be. Here, when we work this out, I'm still viable. I still feel like I can contend. And so I'm making pretty Austria-friendly pitches about what the board's going to look like. If I'm down at 2, I just have a lot less chance of jumping out of it. And so
No. I think you're misapprehending my question. What I mean is, if you were in AIR, like what is your viability of importance to either Austria or Italy? Like, wouldn't it be in their interest to marginalize you before, throwing you a bone? Or you think throw you
it
a
depends
bone?
on who. So here's the problem with that. If you're Austria, and it's not totally how the game played out, but this is what I'd be thinking around there. If Turkey dies here, and France is under pressure, looking like they're going to go down, then there's no naval presence in the Mediterranean other than Italy. Yes. And so I feel like you completely lose the potential check on Italy. I felt like that was something I really had to offer there. So that would be a reason why I, as Austria, would have bought a pitch from Turkey if it was a very Austria-friendly pitch, which he knew he was the only person who was going to make a deal with me. So he had all the leverage, and he was able to make a pretty Austria-friendly deal. I'm sorry, I missed what you said.
Yeah, your pitch was essentially to become the Austrian Navy.
Yeah, that's right. Which is useful to him because it's going to tie up Italy and it's going to kind of check Italy's power, but it's also puts him in a really strong defensive position because I can't, if I'm just building fleets, I can't really stab Austria, and I'm not very threatening to him.
Yeah. No, that does make some sense. That does make some sense. I do wonder, the move to Constantinople was a little bit ill-fated, though, not just because it seemed like Austria, he did want to keep a tight leash on the dogs, but it's impossible to have that kind of psychological evaluation ahead of time. Then also because you ended up leaving yourself really open to that reverse Lepanto. I can't completely fault Austria, though, just insofar as if he thought he had Russia on board, he did for a while have the potential there to kind of get the Lepanto in, but then take all your centers without having to share them.
I'm assuming the pitch to VI, to Russia at this point is, dude, what are you getting out of this deal? Like, what is this alliance with Austria bringing you? Because it looks like, the Austria's got the chokehold on your centers. Where's he going to pick up?
Yeah, so especially when Russia supported Austria's Serbia to Bulgaria. So I don't know if that's in maybe 1902 or
Yeah,
so.
so too.
And there, I'm bouncing the Black Sea, and so he has no way of touching me, and he puts 3 Austrian armies around Romania
Mm-hmm.
by doing that. He gives Austria a build, and to me, that was it's not a move I would have made, because I think he's given Austria all the power. He didn't really have much of an avenue to get something out of it. Eventually when I get smaller, he gets into Black Sea and he's got a chance at some Turkish centers. And I think what I didn't really understand is kind of at the start of the game and through the mid game is Russia and Austria just had a kind of pre-existing bond from a game they played in the qualifiers. I think in VI's words, he was grooming Austria as an ally in that game. And, that's just not anything I could see that they had worked together, but I guess I was too optimistic in my own relationship with VI. And so I didn't see it coming, but they felt really confident in each other right away, which sucks for Turkey.
I mean,
Well-
grooming is a pretty charged word these days, but I mean, I hope you don't mean like R. Kelly grooming, but like
his word, not mine. So you're gonna have to ask him what he meant by
Oh, he
grooming.
thought Austria was his dog.
Well,
yeah. I will say it's so funny though, because at this point, like, so Austria goes against Germany and then Russia stabs them. But it's so funny because in hindsight, now that we know that Germany goes on to win, it's like we killed Austria for doing this and being so stupid, but it's almost like it needed to be done, possibly. I don't know. But I guess that doesn't really involve your little corner quite yet.
Not much does.
I mean,
Yeah.
you're down to one center here.
Yeah. One center. And not his home center.
How did Italy ask for Greece? What magic did you work here to keep that one center?
Yeah, let's see. I blocked out so much of this.
Yeah, how are you feeling at this point?
What it says is that you, Italy, and he worked out a deal to where Austria would be on 3 centers at the end of this turn, but that he didn't want to go along with it because he didn't think it was in his interests, and that this was this all elaborate plan that you and Italy had cooked up to just cripple Austria. Is this ringing a bell?
Yeah. Okay. So in the couple of moves before this, now I'm remembering, my diplomatic effort is spent in a 3-way chat with Italy and Russia, because it's my only play. And every time we reach out, after some very difficult negotiations, we reach a deal and we shake hands, and then nobody does what they're supposed to do in the deal except for me. And so I think this was part of that. This is probably, I guess, okay, now I remember. Thank you. So as you can see, Bulgaria, which has a red X on it because it was destroyed, is a Turkish center.
Right.
And I had offered to support Romania to Serbia. And the deal, I guess that's right, the grand deal of it was I was going to keep Bulgaria and Greece. Tom was, I forget what he's going to do with Ionian, but he was going to attack Austria with us, and VI was going to get something, including Serbia. And VI stabbed, I guess he stabbed everyone here. He stabbed Austria because he took Vienna.
Right.
He stabbed me because he supported Austria into Bulgaria, killing one of my units, and he took Khan. So that's how that one went down in another failed 3-way chat.
Well, I mean, Italy did what he promised, though. He got you Greece.
Yeah, that's right. He did do what he promised. So I think the turn before this, we had another arrangement where looks like he did what he promised there.
Yeah.
There was a turn before this, I think, where Ionian cuts Aegean. Yeah, there it is. And that was the other kind of ill-fated three-way chat. And what Italy said to me was that VI essentially told him, hey, whatever he was supposed to do in the deal was off, and so Italy shouldn't help me. I forget exactly what he was going to do. I think he was supposed to hit Greece here. Anyway, bottom line is we had a bunch of deals and they didn't work out. And Italy, that one move supported me to Greece and kept me in the game. But that was a rare occurrence from my perspective.
Okay.
I actually need to ask a question here because so there's a point at which when we still thought and we'll get it towards the end what your motivations were. There was a point at which I was kind of did a little inventory of who you might be resentful towards, kind of.
Yeah, the cellar of resentment. That was great stuff.
And I actually thought that. Oh, thanks. I actually thought that Italy, that there'd be some kind of bond between you because of that moment where he kept you in the game. And that one, that was that little scrap of life that kept you in. But yeah, it doesn't seem like. I guess I'm wondering, this term tomfoolery. I'm like, do you know who came up with that? And do you think you might have been a victim of a little bit of what was done against you? Like, are you sure that maybe your view of Italy was not poisoned by others?
I don't think so. I think I had plenty of firsthand experience with sort of the way Tom played the game. And I think Tom played well. I think he's a good player. But he's totally unreliable to me. I mean, there were a lot of moves where we kind of shook hands and just he didn't do what he said he'd do. And I just can't work with that, Yeah. So yeah, there really wasn't that bond that it's hard, honestly, what you guys all do looking at a board, not reading the press and trying to
it is.
judge it. But I didn't feel that way at all. I definitely felt a lot more brotherhood with Austria, the most brotherhood with Austria, I think.
But you stabbed really hard at the end.
Austria saves you here.
Yeah, no.
Out of Russia.
Austria saw me as an opportunity, and
he uses you.
He used me as an opportunity, which is great play. And I think he did it right. We can get into kind of motivations in the very end and kind of the last year, but he was really the only one who considered me a potential ally. And we worked together a few times, didn't work out in the beginning, and I can speak to the end when we get there. But
though it looks like Italy tried to help you here as well.
Yeah, so this is fall 2006. Yeah, so by this time, Austria and I are very tight. So at this point, I think Russia had stabbed him, kind of stabbed him a couple times. He and Tom were not getting along. So here is where he and I really reconnected, and he's definitely helping me, and we're coordinating everything.
But did you still have that? Were you keeping the memory? Were you stoking the flames of the memory of his
cellar of resentment, a real one?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I really appreciated the imagery. It wasn't quite like that for me here. I really didn't know what I was going to do if I had any kind of choices in the end. I was kind of living turn to turn. I have one unit, right? So I was eager and excited to go back to Con and throw a little mini parade with the humble Turks in the streets for their, leader returned. So I wasn't like thinking, oh, I can't wait to get this guy. I was just kind of eager to like play turn to turn and try not to embarrass myself, try to survive if I could. There's a point, maybe it's about 2008, maybe early 2009, where I actually conceived of a potential way to win, which might sound ridiculous, but with the way the board is looking and kind of everybody's going towards Germany, and if Italy and Austria don't want each other to win, there is a ridiculous scenario where if I'm viable and I'm behind everybody, that I could be thrown, folks could decide, let's do something silly and give over centers to Turkey. And I actually had that as kind of my motivation for a few turns kind of around 08 and 09, thinking, I don't know what to do. I might as well try to win, even if it's a really slim shot. So, I wasn't.
Thinks. You're
What's that?
That's how a champion thinks. No, I mean, I say it as a compliment. You looked at a one center Austria in spring of 07, but in the back of your mind, you had not yet given up.
No, that's how someone who has a lot of experience with one center on a finals board thinks. You gotta have something to pass the time.
Yeah, actually, Vi said that this was his greatest regret was not. He's like, it's a pointless Romania, and that he should have covered and taken Bulgaria in the spring, but he didn't want to yet again disappoint Austria.
Yeah, so this is deep into Turkish and Austrian cooperation, okay? But this is a move we couldn't agree on, and my suggestion was for Ankara to support Khan to Smyrna and to make a more overtly anti-Russian move here for Austria. And we were kind of at loggerheads on this one, and I was just sure that VI was going to move to Bulgaria and then I'm done. But Austria wanted to kind of do it slow, which turned out to be right because the next move is phenomenal. I think one of the best moves of the game by Austria, where both Italy and Russia think he's giving them Bulgaria. I mean, this move is beautiful.
Yeah, this was great.
Beautiful.
Yeah, Bulgaria's been amazing. This move and then the double retreat to Bulgaria. I've never seen so many fleets be useful in Bulgaria. It's just as disappointing as the sea has been. Bulgaria has gotten some serious action.
Well, right. I strongly critique VI. I'm going to tell you what he said. I think it's the next move. I'm sorry. Yeah, but the double retreat.
Well, it's amazing how he just uses Austria uses Bulgaria as its point of contention, multiple moves in a row. Yeah, just everyone's just breaking their heads against Bulgaria while he kind of moves it around at will.
Yeah, this one is amazing, and I knew this was happening. Like, we're talking about it, but this was totally his brainchild. So I knew kind of the plan was they were going to bounce there, and I was going to get Greece, and he was going to leave me Khan to build, which was glorious. But it was all his move. I wanted him to be more aggressive against Russia the turn before, but he didn't do that, risking my life, because if Russia would have stabbed in Bulgaria, I'm gone. But then it totally worked out in the fall.
Yeah, we totally flamed him for leaving black. That would have definitely held a lot more pressure against you and been a lot more useful versus Russia than moving south. And it puts you at unnecessary risk, in my opinion.
Yeah. What about Turkey?
Yeah, I mean, in general, the Black Sea. This is one of my critiques of this game in general. Is I just don't understand how people were so neglectful of certain kind of important ocean tiles, like people leaving Black Sea, leaving the Mid-Atlantic. Oh, here we go. This is the greatest Lady Razor piece, in my opinion. How did this make you feel? Just give us a rundown of your emotions I know you called for this. You wanted to be portrayed as handsome, and you were.
Someone out there in the world drawing art of your playing of an online board game. Does Mrs. Conq appreciate this?
I haven't shown it to Mrs. Conq. I should. Might get some more understanding there. But no, look, I mean, if anybody is actually listening to this podcast, you're listening to the fourth place or fifth place finisher of an online board game in a biannual tournament talk about the game, which is insane. Then moreover, there's artwork to depict almost every turn. It's ridiculous, it's unbelievable, it's beautiful. So this makes me feel great. I mean, what a silly thing to do is to play diplomacy online in a Nexus tournament, and to have people actually show interest and like follow the moves and freaking draw beautiful artwork about it that is ironic and poignant all at once. It's
Not Forgotten. All his titles are hilarious.
I mean, you can't just tell us what your favorite detail is. I know that you love this because you requested this to some degree. You really did.
Yeah, no, I did. I asked for some, beautiful moment on the Thracian Sea under siege. Well, I was during that time I was kind of setting it up because I sort of knew I was going to get out of this pickle because I felt pretty good about my relationship with Austria, and I did think I was going to get a build. So I kind of wanted the whole eulogy to happen online the term before. But no, it's a beautiful piece of artwork. I love the kind of juxtaposition between the man with a shovel under siege by all these battleships, which is how I felt throughout the game. It's absolutely appropriate that I'm digging my own grave. We've seen that for 3 finals.
What about the memoirs?
The stack of memoirs is appropriate. I don't know what that red thing is. We should ask Lady Razor.
The fez for the Turk.
Yeah.
Of course, a fez. It's. I mean, even now, look. I've stared at this image, for hours, and even now, I'm still picking out details that I.
Well, the battle scar. Look, and I don't want to tell Mrs. Conq what to do, but when you meet your demise, and everyone there is young, so you haven't been to a lot of funerals yet, but they have like the best picture of the person in the funeral home when you go in. Someone, this should be the picture at the funeral home for you. So the
great, or like on a slideshow, maybe. Yeah, it's a great idea.
Yeah, I feel like Lady Razor needs to like auction off these pieces, like the originals, and that one would go. That would probably go for a high price, mostly just you bidding against anyone who came.
I actually think that as much as the pictures portraying Conq are great, but just the outright burns of Ewok throughout the tournament were just amazing.
The 6 out of 6 with the VI Roman numeral. I think it was 6 out of 6 idiots agree. I still that was great. So that is much appreciated effort for sure.
Austria raising you from the dead. This is all fantastic.
Yeah.
Let's see here. All right, so
look, we're turning it around, fellas. Look at that.
Yeah.
We don't understand this. Like, why isn't he killing you?
Who, Austria?
Right. He needs centers.
Well,
how did Germany do this?
Okay, so why isn't Austria killing me here? There's a couple moves where I think he should have. When he moved Ankara to Sev, I think it was a mistake.
Right, we said that.
In Armenia, yeah.
To Armenia, right. So I think this is still okay, because he's moving hard against Russia, and he can't really do that and keep Italy at bay without me. So I think what he's trying to do, I think it's a smart play, is to move on Russia while not letting Italy kind of scoop him out from behind. And so by giving me a fleet build in Con, which I think I get out of this, I get a fleet build in Con, that is really directly threatening Italy. And so I think it's a really smart move here. This is the move that I think he made a mistake.
Could have gone for Romania.
Yeah, and I think he and Italy should have carved me up, honestly. That's kind of what I was expecting, and I was very pleased that it didn't happen. A little pleased because I still probably wasn't going to win. I still definitely wasn't going to win.
Right? Like, clearly he has to be worried about doing this, but he thinks you're his buddy. Are you assuring him you won't do this? Or is he just assuming you won't eventually do him bad?
Well, see, I don't think that assurance would mean very much, and that's not really what he was asking for. he played this diplomatically, I think, about as well as you can play it, in that he is not asking me to promise him the world. He's just showing me respect and showing me a friend. And I honestly, I grappled with the kind of what to do in the end. And it was a hard choice. And I can see why I might have handed him centers for the victory. And that was like not off the table. So he's not asking me to promise anything, but he's, I mean, we're working together on everything at this point. I mean, I know what his moves are going to be.
You knew you were moving to Ankara?
No. Okay. Okay, not everything. So this is spring 09.
Yeah, he moved.
Yeah, I forget what my move was supposed to be here, but we.
It was probably Smyrna to East, Khan to Aegean, and then get him back Greece.
Yeah, I don't even know if we talked about what the move was supposed to be here. So this was kind of a gentle stab, or maybe more overt stab, but we were still on the same page afterwards. But I definitely thought he was going to move Romania to Sev and still have that leverage on my two home centers. And when he didn't do that, I could tell, okay, he's going to keep me around and try to win through Germany and Italy, which he kind of had to do. So that's when I'm kind of doing soul searching about, okay, what do I do? Do I just try to maximize my score? Do I help out the kind of one person who worked with me in this game? Do I still try to like make some point because he was the one who kind of knocked me off the rails in the earlier part of the game, and I had like, 5 or 6 things I'm thinking about in my head, and ultimately went with try to finish on as many as I can personally.
Well, man, now that we're looking at these moves, I haven't really like focused on a corner of the map like this, but never in all of human history have the ports of Bulgaria been this busy. I have to say, there's just like fleets coming constantly in and out of Bulgaria, bouncing in Bulgaria. There must just be like hundreds of dock laborers just there working every day. But yeah, you're putting this all really nicely, but I mean, I think you made the right choice. Like, yes, he did love you. He did come to trust you, but can't let people fuck with you. You made an example of him, and now people will know, like, for the next time.
That's a great way to look at it. That's how I looked at it. Season 2, season 4, right? I get real small really fast, and I think, okay, I'm going to make a point,
Yeah.
I'm gonna, show somebody, and then nobody's going to mess with me the next time around. But I have learned it just it doesn't work, or it hasn't worked for me.
Yeah.
I think I even said in the chat, like, I'm a vengeful player or something, trying to cultivate the idea that if you stab me, I'm gonna, make it my mission to ruin your game. But nobody really thinks about that when they're kind of in the minutia of a move in a diplomacy game. So I don't think that reputation is all that valuable. For me, in a move like this, kind of the end game like this, I feel a little, I feel like it's a little dirty, or it's not pure to throw the game to Austria at the end when I'm literally walking out of centers to do it.
Yeah.
It feels a little more kind of natural, honorable, doing justice to the game to kind of continue to work towards something, getting more centers, my own personal center count, to kind of like give it some kind of integrity. That's what I had in my head. But it's hard because you can't win. So it's really hard to make decisions. You don't really have a win condition at that point. So I definitely
really have a
We
clear.
got to cover a couple topics.
okay.
Yeah.
The most fascinating thing, the double retreat to Bulgaria here, which I criticized VI heavily for on the show and in person. And he was just like,
Good.
he's just like, it makes no sense to me to move to Sev. And I'm like, well, you'd save Ukraine for a turn. He's like,
What
who
are you
cares?
talking about?
Look, I'm talking about Romania retreating to Bulgaria, Conq moving to.
No,
Conq.
I mean, what is VI talking about? That makes what he's saying makes no sense.
Oh, okay, all right. As long as
Yeah.
you're saying what I'm saying makes no
No,
sense.
I understand what you're saying. You should have totally moved to
I mean,
Sevastopol.
dude. I mean, like what? How are you processing this?
Yeah.
How did you not get on the same page on this issue?
Yeah. So when this happened, right after this spring move, I sent him a message right away saying, "Look, I'm going to Bulgaria." And you know, we did have a few talks about this, and the stubbornness of both of us kind of came through. You know, it's tough in his position because he doesn't have anything to play for either. I mean, he's not going to win this game at this point. So I can see his side of it where retreating to Seb, okay, then what do I do? I like save Ukraine for a turn. So maybe I end on, 2 instead of 1. It just, there's no real upside in that. If he can get me to let him into Bulgaria, then he might actually have something to work with where he's going to get, he could even, I think, potentially get a build if he can work with Tom and me on this one. So
Did he try to work with you, or did he just say I'm moving there too?
No, his pitch to me is I retreat to Albania, he retreats to Bulgaria, and then maybe Tom and I can work something out in Greece or Trieste together, right? That's not going to go far with me because I didn't trust Tom would do what he said he'd do, and certainly not because VI is offering it from Bulgaria. My kind of mission statement here, I'm actually ridiculously thinking about winning the game. So if I retreat to Bulgaria and VI lets me in, I'm definitely planning to move to Smyrna, and I have a chance to end this turn on 3 with 2 home centers, meaning I can end 09 with all 3 home centers building 2, which just means I still have the potential to get up to a number that can win the game. So I know I'm going to move to Smyrna. I had told Tom and VI both I was going to do that, but there's no way I'd do that with VI in Bulgaria because he'd just take Con. So that's why I was absolutely resolute in my retreat to Bulgaria, because I felt like if I actually got through there, there was a, less than 1% chance, but a chance nonetheless that I could grow to a level that could actually contend.
Since you were tight with Austria, did you get insight, second question, for why he helped Germany grow in 08?
Yes, he and I talked about that move. I recommended that he support Germany into Venice, and I don't think it was a bad move. The way he's going to win this game at this point is to have Germany and Italy focused on each other, and while he goes and picks up Russia. I felt like Tom was poised to have a good turn here, and if he can get those two kind of tied up, then he has a chance. So I think, obviously his support didn't matter anyway, but he still gave it. I don't think it's a bad move because I think the whole focus right here, you got 4 game moves left. If you can get Italy and Germany kind of tied up and focused on each other, you can win. So
I didn't hate this move either. I thought it'd be nice to follow it up with by following a German unit into Tyrolia. But other than that, I didn't think it was bad because Tom was poised for 2 builds, and knocking him down 1 would just create enough.
Yeah,
and more than knocking him down 1, it puts them at loggerheads. They're already fighting, I know, in the West, but it means that Italy's going to have to bring to bear, 2 armies to take Venice back, and then there's maybe a retreat to Apulia. And basically, he might have to move those fleets back to protect Naples. And it just kind of creates this, in my mind at the time, this cascading effect where they're going to be fighting each other. And that's going to give you an avenue to grow. So I'll defend that move. I think it's a good move, and I suggested it. Not that he wouldn't have done it anyway, but I thought it was a good move.
I mean, you guys didn't predict that Italy was about to flip on England either. You know, I think you guys might have thought that England and Italy would continue to work against Germany and counterbalance them in the West, which would have made this make more sense. I also do want to point out that in spite of your evaluation of Italy, he tries to help you again here, but just saying. But yeah,
Yeah. Although I couldn't take that because
of course, I understand why you win too.
Yeah.
All right. As we move it along here, I think we analyzed that you had to do this in spring, not the fall. But how
Well,
dirty do you feel?
you know, I didn't feel dirty about this. One, Austria knew I was moving Aegean to Greece. The idea that we had worked out was that I'd move in and then move out. And I wasn't sure I wasn't going to do that. I didn't know that Greece was going to be destroyed. I thought he was going to support Greece to Albania here. And then that unit wouldn't have been destroyed.
Yeah.
But in any event, look, I don't feel bad about this. I'm maximizing my centers here in a game I'm not going to win, and it's really hard to figure out what to do. I could have completely played towards an Austrian victory, and there were reasons to do that. And part of me wanted to do that because he had worked with me and he had, kind of resuscitated me.
Did he ask you for it?
Yeah. I mean, not like him coming to me, hey, will you throw me the game, but us kind of talking about it. I mean, that's underlying a lot of our negotiations. It's why I'm able to go from 1 to 6, because I'm trying to make him feel like it's in his interest for me to be alive behind him. And the only way to do that is for him to feel like I want him to win. And, parts of me wanted him to win, but I guess maybe there's a cellar of resentment there for that earlier stab. I think that's part of it. If I felt loyalty to somebody because I worked with them all game and I felt like they were a great ally, then I could see myself throwing the game to them. I mean, I could definitely see making that move, even if it, knocks me way down the leaderboard. Here, I didn't have that loyalty because I felt like he made a bad stab earlier in the game. And so I didn't feel that overwhelming sense of brotherhood. And beyond that, I didn't feel kind of arrogant enough to be the decider among, these other folks. And I felt like the kind of most reasonable thing to do was just to kind of maximize my own growth and let whoever wins under that condition win. So
I got a question. Do you think that was a bad play to have Tom put you in Greece? Because he had a potential to win if he had taken it for himself.
So his first ask to me was to take it himself. And I said, no. He's floating the idea of throwing the game to Germany at this point. I said, I don't care. Because that's not really a threat to me.
Right.
So I asked him to, he's coming to me at this point. He's saying, hey, support me to Germany or support me into Greece or I'm going to throw the game. Right. And I'm like, I don't care. And he's thinking, the only way I have a chance to win is if I'm in Greece. And so, I'll try for it if you let me into Greece, but if not, then clearly the game's over and I ought to just try to reward, Germany. And so I said, okay, well, would you have a chance to win if I end up taking Austrian centers here and you put me in Greece? And he kind of thought about it. And I think he realized that he did have some potential avenues to win with that. So was it a bad move? I mean, I wasn't going to let him in Greece. At this point, my kind of hierarchy, I would have preferred Austria to Italy, just based on the fact that I'd been stabbed by both of them, but the only one who really considered me an ally and like saw something in me kind of moving forward was Austria. Italy, made 15 deals with me, and maybe he kind of came through on a few of them, but I'd say more than half didn't come through, and we just didn't work together. So I wasn't.
Wait, one more follow up.
Yes.
Had he taken Greece, would you have helped Austria take it back? That's the only way he would be able to lose it. That's just that devil's advocate, because he couldn't have won without Greece.
I wouldn't have felt strongly. So my hierarchy of outcomes here is, I thought it'd be cool to get up to 6, right? If that's not happening, and if I'm going to be on 5, say, and I'm deciding who gets Greece, I guess I'd rather Austria have it, but I don't feel, wouldn't have been a big deal to me.
Or if Austria would have supported UN to stop Italy from winning.
Yeah,
sure. I would have gone for that. But these are like sad, choices to make, because none of them involves me winning, and it's just sort of it's really hard to figure out what to do when your win condition's off the table.
All right.
I'm so curious about who the architect of this anti-Italian sentiment is. I'm absolutely convinced that there is like a drop of poison in the well against Italy, because you talk about I don't mean to contradict you, but like the only thing he ever did against you is he broke one of your supports once in this entire game. I mean, and this is maybe I'm complete. On one hand, sometimes not seeing the press, you're completely blind, and on the other hand, sometimes when you're only looking on the board, you see other things too. Maybe that's my only critique. I also think you seem to want to defend your choices here, and you have absolutely nothing to be ashamed about. You absolutely did not owe Austria a game throw. There is no right thing to do, and I think if you said it looks to me like you had an aesthetic you went for, and you achieved that aesthetic. You ended up with 6 centers. Like I'm really I think that this was a great game.
Plus with exclamation points.
Yeah.
I think if we added up all the grades, I think I might have won, right? If it's just to get grades.
Well,
it's easy to tell your center count when you're working from 1, I guess. So
yeah, I mean, Ed kind of skews. Ed's kind of we always tell him he's on the Texan grading system, so like a little bit of grade inflation down there. It's kind of difficult to. He kind of throws the averages a little bit.
This interview is 8 months.
I'll come back from that.
All right. Look, Mrs. Conq is going to be very mad at Mr. Conq, but Badger, Skinny Pete, you got any questions left for Conq?
I think I just poured out my overflowing cup of Conq appreciation, and there's not just one drop left. So I'm very happy with this interview, and I'm done.
Conq, anything we totally missed or should have asked you? Like in a deposition. Is there anything we forgot to ask you about?
There was nothing at all. I'm surprised we were able to fill however much time we filled talking to a mostly one center turkey. But I will say to Audacious Hand, my favorite quote from the podcast, which if I had like a tagline on my Nexus profile, I'd use this. It was, "Conq's heart is not dark, it's multicolored," which just really struck a chord for me. And when I was trying to figure out, okay, what do I do when I can't win, and I kind of feel loyalty here, and I kind of feel wronged, anyway, try to puzzle through that. That was kind of in the back of my mind. So thank you for helping me get through it.
Well, to the 2 or 3 people who are going to actually watch 85 minutes of this interview, we thank you.
Yeah.
DiplomacyBriefing.com. We thank our favorite player, the people's choice, the man who got the highest grades of the tournament, the man who survived. He didn't just survive. He wasn't eliminated. His highest place ever in 3 tournaments. Thank you very much, Conq/Jordan Connors, for giving us a lot of entertainment. And we hope we cheered you up during your your years of exile in this game.
Well, thanks to you guys and to whoever's watching this. It is sad that you're still watching at this point to this particular player in this game, but it was a pleasure, and thanks for actually spending time caring about this. Much appreciated, and it was a joy. So thanks.
No problem. I will put in the cellar of resentment. It is 1:55 a.m. my time and 2:55 a.m. Superstitions time just for this. And I hope this recorded. Good night, guys.
Terrible life choices. That's all I can say.